Hello internet friends, welcome back and thanks for joining if you are new to the channel. I talked a lot about my mentality for this particular squat workout in my last video, so I think today we'll probably just talk more about the lifting itself and some things that were kind of in my mind cue-wise and actual performance of the lift. As you'll see, I have switched back to the singlet. I was noticing a lot in the first few weeks of training that I wasn't happy with, because of the lighting in the garage situation, two of the light bulbs are burned out, that I was not able to see my depth and be as critical as I want to be. And even though it's kind of coming back to this winter time and things are getting a little bit colder, I have decided that I'm going to keep squatting in my singlet just for the purposes of, having it be easier to break down my technique and improve some things. A few of the things that I was really trying to keep in mind during these sets, this is the 5th week of the programming, the TSA intermediate thing. So far, Hanny, Eric, and I haven't really had me deviate much from the program. I've switched out a couple of rowing movements to protect my lower back instead of having 4 bent row movements every single week and taxing a lot of the same muscles when there's supposed to be a few that are chest supported. Anyway, so the progression's been pretty linear, which for someone past an intermediate level probably wouldn't be super appropriate. Most linear progressions are not sustainable, and in my particular case, the reason we're going with that and sticking with that is because I started this training block far from my best, far from having already maxed my capacity, and a lot of this was getting back into regular training. So the linear progression style made a lot more sense, where I've just been putting weight on the bar each week and hitting the same kind of rep and set schemes to get some of my work capacity and my volume tolerance back. So what I was thinking about largely in this, I was pretty happy with these squats. This was the lowest my body weight's been in a while. I weighed 212 that morning, which is about 5 pounds down from where I started this cycle after fixing a few dietary issues in terms of just cleaning everything up and being really, really intentional with my macro tracking and just being intentional with weighing myself every day. But I slowed down the tempo of my descent in these squats. And I actually was talking to my roommate the other day about I've been working with him on improving some bench press positioning and technical things, and he had asked me, how quickly should I be descending, or how slow should I descend? And I said, honestly, you want to go as fast as you can be perfect. And so if you're keeping a lot of these technical cues in mind, if you're keeping a lot of things in your brain about hitting your positions well and staying in, I would say, optimized physiological positions and anatomically correct squatting positions. It's different for everybody, but you're always pursuing an ideal. You don't want to just drop down into it, because if you hit the bottom and your hips kind of pop out or something, if you're losing that tension, if you're unable to control that bottom, you may get some momentum or some bounce or some rebound out of it, but you're sacrificing your positioning for that momentum, and so you're putting yourself potentially in a weaker state, I guess, where you're not able to put maximum force onto the bar to move the weight on the way up. And so that's something that I was really trying to implement for these squats. I was slowing down my descent, not to make the reps harder, but more to make sure that when I hit the bottom of the squat that I was not losing my positioning because I was being lazy and because I was relying on that momentum to get me through the lift. I was trying to focus on making sure that by the time I started the reverse of the lift, I was in a better position. And obviously fatigue factors in, the weight itself factors in. There's a lot of different things that kind of come into play when you're dealing with weights specifically that can be challenging, which is the point. But your training has to be hard enough if you want to ingrain these movement patterns, ingrain these positions. So I was focusing really hard on not letting my hips kind of squirt back on the reverse and trying to focus on that. And I think it paid off, even at the lighter body weight, which traditionally for me has been, just shifting and losing weight during a training cycle has a tendency to make you less confident with the way things feel. And I feel like I've just been in a better mental space this entire cycle. Moving on to the bench press, actually this day I was forgetting a couple of cues. I've been working really hard on this idea of proximal versus distal initiation of the lift. And it's the idea that instead of taking the bar and unracking it and then controlling it down with your shoulders and your pecs on the way down, you're actually initiating the movement with some scapular retraction and bringing your rhomboids and your upper traps into play, utilizing all this upper back strength that I've been building with all these rowing movements that I've done so much. And on this day, I was not as consistent with it. And you're going to see, comparing a few of these sets to some of the sets that I do later or that I've done earlier in this block, they just aren't as consistent. And there's a little bit more of a drop on the way down instead of me initiating the lift with an active musculature and an active idea of pulling the bar down like a row and then initiating the upper movement. And you're actually going to see me miss a lift, which is something that doesn't happen very often. I very rarely miss lifts in training, and the most frustrating part was it was literally the very last rep of the very last set of the very last bit of benching here, and I had a cramp in my right lat, and right there it it cramped and it pulled the bar down about 3 inches further than it normally would. I touched super low, and then my shoulder actually kind of slid off the bench, so I was able to get out from under it. Only hurt the ego, only hurt the pride, but definitely one of those scenarios where I didn't feel like I should have missed that lift. I felt like it was kind of just an error that was sort of a fluke, and I could have done better if I would have planned better. So I put the bar back up, came back, paused it, and actually remembered my cue of the scapular retraction and initiating the movement a little more appropriately on that last rep, which would have been really helpful to do throughout the entire benching. But occasionally, even if you feel like you're ready for something and you've done the work and you're prepared for it, stuff comes up. That's life, and you deal with it and you make the most of it, and it doesn't do you any favors to pretend like it didn't happen, especially if you have the opportunity to learn from it. I will say after this session I was much more aware of what my upper back was doing moving forward in some of the other training that I've done since then, which is the deadlift workout that'll be up very soon. After that, I have replaced the band rows that I've been doing with some inverted rows that you saw right before these close grip bench, and then I finished off with the close grip bench. So overall, the idea for this week is mostly getting back some more control. I've been very intentional with trying to improve my positioning, improve the technique, improve my ability to put myself into a position where I'm able to generate more power and rely less on momentum. That's one of the big things for this entire training cycle, and I feel like a lot of people get to the point with their training where you lose your, they'll either do speed work with weights that are too light to really train the motor patterns correctly, or they'll overlook the importance of making sure that you hit that reversal point in the best possible positions so that you can start to put maximum force on the bar. But I have other thoughts on that. Maybe those will be for another day. So thank you guys for watching. Thanks for joining along, and I will have my deadlift and other bench video up very soon. I hope you're all doing well wherever you're at, and I will talk to you soon. Bye.